We've been talking about what it means, why we do middle school ministry. It's called On Purpose, and we have 4 kind of values that we would grade our ministry on. Are we being a safe ministry or an inclusive ministry? Are we being immersive or creating an experience? Today we're going to talk about what it means to be a passionate ministry, one that has this desire to grow closer to God, and both on a get people to come to know Jesus and on a I want to know Jesus to the deepest parts of my soul. And next week we'll actually talk about what it means to be a personal ministry, an intimate ministry, one that of the connection. So today we're focusing on the vertical relationship. And something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I've spent a lot of time in seminary reading about, is in the book of Romans. There are like a lot of chapters. And the first 11 chapters of the book of Romans focuses in on who God is and how we have this separation from God. He, in fact, Paul, who wrote the book of Romans, spent the entire time explaining where we are at in our walk with Christ. That if we don't know Him, we are separated from God. In fact, at one point it says we are at war with God. I went to an Easter service one time, and somebody, literally at the end of the service, they talked about how we were at war with God, and they gave everyone bullets. Craziest thing. They were like these huge bullets, and I was like, I've never seen a bullet like this before. But the point that they were making is that we are at war with God in our sin, but because of the blood of Jesus, we get to come together and be with Him, and His grace is extended on us. So the first 11 chapters of Romans are this deep theological perspective of what it means to know Jesus and what it means for our lives. And then in chapter 12, verse 1, it says, therefore. Now, if you've been in big church, Dave has kind of pointed this out, but when you guys see a therefore in Scripture, it's there for a reason. Therefore, okay, it's there for, it's basically saying, hey, we're about to get to something important, but the reason that we're going to talk about what's coming up is because of what we just talked about. And a lot of times when you read a therefore, it's like, okay, well, we'll read the 5 sentences before it, and we'll understand why the therefore is there. So it says therefore, and what it means is not just chapter 11, it's 1 through 11. It's the entire book of Romans to that point. It says, therefore, in light of God's mercy, let us be living sacrifices. This is our form of worship, holy and pleasing to the Lord. And so today we're going to talk about being passionate in this relationship. Wow! Okay. You are passionate about that.
Scared me. I'm full. I'm switched on.
Honey, you need to keep your child in check. She's going to be like, oh, it's my child now. Total tangent. She at one point said to me, we were in the car going somewhere, and she's like, I carried your child. And I'm like, wait, hold on. And then she ranted about all these reasons why she was upset. Totally has nothing to do with my message, but I'm just going to come back around. So she explained why she was upset and all the stress that she had to go through by having Thomas and taking care of him. And I'm like, honey, I validate everything you're saying. And I just want to confirm, everything you have just said is true. She's like, yes, I'm very upset about it. Like, okay. And then she starts getting suspicious. She's like, why? And I'm like, no, just confirm. Yes, I confirm it. Good. So you think Thomas is my child. Great. I can take him wherever I want, do whatever I want with him, because he is my child. What?
Now I have a child?
Yeah.
Sure. My parents have 4 child. Get a life.
Okay. So guys, back to being passionate. We want to be a ministry that is a passionate ministry. And why do we want to be a passionate ministry? Here's the question for today we want to look at. What does a passionate ministry look like? And to explain what a passionate ministry looks like, we're actually going to go into the book of Acts. And the book of Acts is a really cool history book, basically. For those of you who don't know, Acts is actually the sequel to the book of Luke. Acts is actually the sequel to the book of Luke. So Luke is part 1, Acts is part 2. It was written to the same person, written by the same person. And so this is, how did that come back?
He's drawing on the board.
No. So in the beginning of Acts 1, it talks about Jesus ascending to heaven. And then it starts talking about the early church. And we're going to focus on this part at the end of Acts 2. But I think there's one question. We answer the question first with this answer right here. It says, what does a passion ministry look like? It begins with devotion. It begins with devotion. You see, even when we look at what Romans had talked about, our entire relationship with God is where it starts. You know, when you get married to somebody, when you get into a relationship, when you have a child, you are devoted to them. They become a priority in your life. And so when we talk about being a passionate ministry, it begins with this idea of devotion. That your life revolves around the fact that you are devoted to God. And we're going to take a look at Acts in the early church. This is the first description we get of the first church. So here's what it says in Acts 2. 2:42 through 43. It starts out, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. And everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. Good, I'm glad that's one. Okay. What you have here is these believers, they came and they began to go deep into what Jesus had said. So what the apostles would do is their teaching was actually very much based on the Old Testament and the words of Christ himself. And so they would go deep into his teachings, and then they would join one another. They would hang out, and they would break bread, they would eat together, and they would pray together. This became a community of fully devoted. We'll just take that down and throw it away.
No.
Yes. No, take it down and throw it away. Okay. Okay, then don't touch it again. It starts with devotion. And what that means for us as this ministry, and why we start there, is because the fact is we are not just a social club. We are not, in a sense, a youth group. We are a youth ministry. We are coming alongside you, and you guys are coming alongside each other. And my son is making a lot of noise.
Your son.
Yes,
So
my
he's
son.
your son now?
I'm devoted to him, okay? Fully devoted to him.
This is so popular.
When it comes to our walk with Christ and why we do ministry, why we have youth ministry as a whole, it comes right back to, it starts with devotion. We do church because the church is about coming together as believers to worship and devote ourselves and our lives to God. That's number one. Number two, though, it takes sacrifice. Now, those of you who are in core, there's a running joke that all you guys do is stack chairs. It's not true. You guys do much more than that. But I feel like the logo should be a picture of stacking chairs.
Do we have to do something actual?
I love that.
Okay.
And a slice like a slice pizza. Because
Yeah.
we don't eat pizza. We literally don't.
We gotta eat.
Well, normally when
Yeah,
we go to
Friday.
help out early, there's pizza there.
There is always pizza. Do you know why there's always pizza there?
Because we're hungry teenagers.
Because somebody believes on our staff team, they donate it to our group. They go and buy it because they believe that in serving the Lord it takes devotion, and they are willing to sacrifice to make sure it happens. So this person actually brings pizza, pays for it themselves to make sure all the staff have pizza as they're about to go serve the Lord.
Right.
But the reason why we're going to talk about it takes sacrifice is because youth group, youth ministry is not about you. And I want you to hear that very clear. Youth group, youth ministry is not about you. The thing is most people who go to church, especially go to youth group, go to Sunday mornings, go to Friday nights, go to Wednesday nights when they get to high school, they start getting in the mindset that it's about me, it's about the fun I'm going to have, it's about how much I'm going to learn about God, and they revolve it around themselves, and they get, what happens is then pastors go, oh, I'm going to provide the ultimate experience just for this age group. So then they get that age group, they graduate up, they get high school, they get the exact teaching for their age group. And then they go to college. And guess what may or may not exist? A college ministry. But say it does. Then they graduate college and they're going out into the real world and they're going to go find a church. And what are they looking for in a church?
Call pastors.
A me church. A
We have
church
college ministry.
that is about,
Consider.
that is going to take care of them. That's going to be about how, like, the worship has to be perfect for me. The teaching has to be perfect for me. All of the people have to like me. They have to be like me. They need to look like me. They need to talk like me. And so church becomes very me-centric. And the true church takes sacrifice. Sometimes you have to say, this is a moment that isn't about me, but is better for the church as a whole. We at Cambria Community Church, if you guys have gone to the main service, it can be sometimes a little loud, it can be dark. And there are people in our church that are a little bit older who go, I want the lights on, I want hymns, I want it quieter. And if they start focusing in on those things, often they become more about me than about saying, okay, why is the church being intentional about these things? Why is the church doing these things? And they, as more mature believers, may need to sacrifice and say, I want to see my children and my grandchildren come to church, to my church. And so I'm willing to sacrifice my preferences for the better community. So when we have a passionate ministry, it may mean that you do some work. You serve the Lord, and it's not necessarily just about you. When we talk about being inclusive, it's really easy to say, okay, I'm coming here to hang out with my friends and miss new people. Again, that's another thing that takes sacrifice, because we're not a social club. We are a ministry of God. This middle school ministry is your ministry to other middle schoolers. You get to be involved and connect, and you get to grow with the Lord, grow with each other, worship Him. This is your ministry. So let's take a look at what happens in Acts. All of the believers, they were together and had everything in common. And what that is saying is they would come together and they didn't worry about their differences. They came together in full unity. And then what they did, they sold their property and their possessions to give to anyone who had need. We don't do this very well. In fact, companies in the secular world, out there, not out in the church, do this better than we do. And that is, we don't often give up the things that are valuable to us to make sure that anybody who's in our community is taken care of. We get super focused in on ourselves. And the thing is back to Disneyland, I'm going to give you an example from Disneyland.
Disneyland so much.
I love Disneyland.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Okay, I will answer that question in a hot second. I will actually conclude with that, okay?
In a hot second, not a cold second.
for the hot one.
Okay. I told you guys the story if you went to Christian Club. But basically there's a huge storm, a bunch of employees at Disney work to take care of the community. And then, so they were at work instead of being home taking care of their houses. They got home and their houses were wrecked.
What storm?
Hurricane, and so it was Disney World. And here's what happened. The president of Walt Disney World got together with his higher ups and he said, okay, we're going to do this thing where everybody can donate into this fund, that anybody who's on our staff in the community, if they have suffered or lost things in the storm, we will take care of it. And every single employee that had lost something, because of the generosity of not only the higher ups, but even just the people who would clean the streets of Walt Disney World, they all donated so that no one was in need. We need to be that kind of mindset. If you see a need in our youth group, fill the need. If you see a need in your community among your friends, fill the need. That's what church is supposed to do. That's the community that we're talking about. Sacrifice, because Jesus sacrificed for us, therefore we should sacrifice for others. And the third point that I want to get to here is that if we have a passionate ministry, this will lead to true life transformation. Now, being inclusive, that's all great. That's the first kind of thing that we do, the being bigger. That's like the social club aspect of youth group, of youth ministry. The second one, the immersive experiences. I really believe that it's really great to have an excellent ministry, that we would have fun, that we would do it well, that we would honor God by providing a great ministry. But when we talk about the third point, this is the beginning of this journey that you guys are here for. If we didn't help you guys in this life transformation, if we weren't about that, there would be no need for my job. In fact, Paul will take it even a step further in the Bible. He said if there was no resurrection, then all of this building, you guys being here, wasting your Sundays, Fridays, all of the money that we've spent would be waste. It would not have any worth if there was no resurrection. Jesus' death on the cross and his resurrection is the crux of what we're doing. And that's why we need to be a passionate ministry. We need to respond to it because it will lead to life transformation. Let's look at what Acts says as it concludes here too. What? Shh. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and they ate together with gladness and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. You guys see that? All they did was they lived out their life in community, worshiping the Lord, devoting themselves to this teaching, and enjoying the favor of all the people, in the sense they were honoring those around them and loving on them. And look what the Lord did. He added to their number daily those being saved. Not only were they being transformed inward by their own community, but the light within the community led to the light being outside the community and people coming in wanting to see transformation in their lives. So guys, we need to have a lifestyle of praising God, being passionate about our faith, because not only does it transform your life, but it transforms the lives of those around you. So let's go to the big idea and then I'll answer your question about Disneyland. A worship lifestyle, one that is like in Romans 12:1, is at the intersection of evangelism and death. And the idea is that if you are living a passionate life for Christ, one that is in light of all the things that he has done in his mercy, as it says in Romans 12:1, that we would be living a life of living sacrifice. That this would be our form of worship. That our lifestyle would not only grow in our own faith, but be a light to the world. It says, Jesus says to his believers, to his disciples, he says, you are the light of the world. My question to you guys is, are you a light of the world that sits on a hill? Or are you a light of the world that sits in a cave? Because a city on a hill that is the light of the world can be seen for miles and is a goal that people want to get to. But if you're in a cave, then you're hidden from the world. And you're in this little elite area that no one else gets to see. You're in this little club, and nobody wants to go there because they don't know. So worship lifestyle is at the intersection of both evangelism and spiritual death. And I hope that you guys in your life would be able to live that out. To be excited about your faith. You don't have to be corny about it, but just be genuine. Love people well. Love God really, really well. Share with others what God is teaching you and how you're experiencing sacrifice by serving the Lord in unique ways. And you will see life transformation both in your life and in the life of others. Let's pray. Father God, thank you for this time. Thank you for these awesome students. God, I just ask that we would both have a heart for our own growth and the growth of those in the community. That we'd be a community that would love one another and be excited about worship, excited about living for you. That as we would read your word or sing out during church, that it would just be a symptom of the passion that we have for you in our lives. We love you and we thank you. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.